U.S., U.K., and European unions are responding with sanctions to Russia's latest move on Ukraine. But will that be enough to stop Putin from continuing his invasion? Joining us this morning to talk more about this is historian and speaker Kimberly St. Julian-Varnon. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So the newest thing this morning is that Russia has started evacuating their diplomatic personnel from Ukraine. What do you think about that? Is that a signal that this is getting ugly? What do you think comes next here?
I do think it's a worrying sign that Russia's removing its diplomatic corps from Ukraine. It kind of shows us that the sanctions doesn't seem to be enough, that we will see an increase in aggression towards Ukraine from Russia. And it's worrisome considering Putin said 2 or 3 days ago, fundamentally, that he does not believe Ukraine is a separate country or has a separate history from Russia.
Yeah. And speaking of maybe sanctions not being enough, just kind of pretend that you're in the White House situation room right now. What would you do? What would you suggest after hearing something like Russia is pulling their diplomats out of there?
I think the key thing here is to strengthen the sanctions. We need to hit Russia as hard as we can economically, but also we need to be preparing to think about how we can support our NATO allies who perhaps will be sending troops to Ukraine, because we've already stated we will not send any American troops to Ukraine, but we can think about how we can provide financial support and lethal aid to our NATO allies against Russia.
Yeah. A lot of people here in Central Texas are concerned about their loved ones who live in the Ukraine. Do you think this is going to be a long and deadly situation? What do you think comes next there?
I think it depends on how Russia responds to this newest wave of sanctions, but it doesn't seem like Russia's going to be backing off. I have friends in Ukraine as well, and I think that a key thing Americans, especially Texans, can understand, because we're kind of like Ukrainians, is Ukrainians are proud of their country, they're proud of their heritage, and they will fight tooth and nail. We've seen different reports of civilian groups getting ready and training for the past few months to prepare for a Russian incursion. I think it will be a long fight, and we could be seeing a humanitarian crisis depending on how Russia behaves. We can hope for the best, but we should prepare for the worst.
Yeah. Well, since this is such a new and unfolding situation, a lot of people might be tuning in who have no idea what's happening over there. Just give us a little background on Putin's insistence to move into Ukraine. Has this been brewing for a while?
I would argue it has, particularly after 2014, where we saw the Russian occupation and annexation of Crimea, but also Russian support of pro-Russian forces in Luhansk and Donetsk, which is what we call the Donbass region of Ukraine. So for the past 8 years, Russia has supported these destabilizing forces in the far east of Ukraine. So what Russia did was it recognized these two runaway regions as independent and has offered them military aid and support, essentially allowing and preparing for Russian troops to enter the Ukrainian Far East. This is still considered an occupied territory. It's still considered Ukrainian in international law, but Russia has decided it's independent and probably will be using these two runaway regions as a launching off point for further incursions into Ukraine. So the situation has gotten significantly more serious and worse in the past week compared to some of the diplomatic agreements we had from Putin last week. Macron and Scholz from Germany have gotten some agreements from Putin, and he's clearly not paying attention to those.
Yeah, scary situation. Thanks for putting it into perspective for us. Kimberly, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.